Now back to the Kelly Cutrara Show on Global News Radio 640 Toronto.
All right. Welcome to the show. Good to have you along. Drones, some people like to use them for their enjoyment and fun. It's recreation, but they're also serious business. Drone drops are going to become a thing with regard to two Ontario First Nations communities. They're soon going to receive pandemic supplies through drone deliveries in an effort to limit person-to-person contact during the pandemic. Drone Delivery Canada is going to carry out the service. Here to talk about it, CEO Michael Zahra joins the show. Welcome to the program. Good to have you on.
Thanks for having me.
So give us an idea of what these supply runs are going to look like and the logistics of the operation.
Sure. So as you mentioned, it's two First Nations communities, Beausoleil First Nation and Georgina Island First Nation, both in Northern Ontario. And a lot of First Nations communities are trying to self-isolate because they want to prevent the pandemic coming into the community because they're particularly susceptible because of underlying healthcare issues and poor healthcare infrastructure. So as you mentioned, perfect way to limit person-to-person contact, but also keep the supply chain open. So we're going to be using our Sparrow drone, which is our smallest electric drone, has a range of 30 kilometers, even though both of these projects will be about 4 kilometers one way. And they can handle up to about 10 pounds of cargo. So we'll be bringing in swabs to the community for testing and then taking those swabs out for analysis, PPE, or really any kind of supplies they need to deal with the pandemic.
What's the protocol when dealing with these drones, handling them? Because if you're sending, the last thing you want to do is touch the drone, I imagine, and have someone possibly be asymptomatic for COVID and then deliver that where someone's going to touch it in these First Nations locales. And that's what you're trying to avoid. So will you be wiping them down, sterilizing them? Give us an idea of what happens.
So we will be training people within the community to operate the system after we've installed it and set it up. So we'll be folks within the community. So that way we're preventing any kind of outside influence coming into the community. So they will be loading and unloading cargo, changing batteries, but it will be folks within the community. So that keeps it isolated, number one, but also creates jobs and creates STEM learning within the community as well.
Have you delivered to these communities before? And if so, why are these locations tricky to deliver through traditional methods?
So we have done First Nations projects before. We did a project probably over 2 years ago now at Moose Cree First Nation, also in Northern Ontario, before the pandemic, where we moved medical supplies and biologicals and a variety of cargo. These two communities in particular are unique because they're on an island. Both of them are on islands. They have a mainland component plus an island component, and they want to limit traffic on the ferry because obviously people would be in close proximity. They're very small ferries, plus they also want to prevent any outside influence coming onto the island. So they're trying to self-isolate, reduce ferry traffic, but they need to keep the supply chain open, so drones are perfect for that.
I understand this is part of a federal initiative. Can you tell us about the goal and how Drone Delivery Canada became involved?
So Beausoleil First Nation, it was separately funded through an organization, humanitarian organization called Global Medic, in partnership with Air Canada Cargo and a logistics company called OEC Group. And the Georgina Island First Nations project was funded by Indigenous Services Canada, which is a federal ministry under the federal government. So we were in discussions with them, and there was a need for this kind of service for a variety of communities. And for us, it's not a pilot because we've been doing this for many years, but the government saw this as an opportunity to study the effectiveness at a real project where they're delivering social value and economic value to the community, but to see it as a pilot for the effectiveness of rolling out other projects with drones if we have, God forbid, a second wave of the pandemic or any other kind of natural disaster. So the government's using it as a pilot to see how effective this can be going forward. We already know it's going to be effective because we've done it many times, but the government's studying it.
How long can the pilot last here?
So both of these projects are 6-month projects. They'll both be running probably in the next few weeks. We're in the process of implementing both of them right now, but we can certainly extend them as necessary if there's need because of the pandemic, or after the pandemic, if they choose they want to use it purely for commercial purposes, we can do that as well.
How often are the drone deliveries going to happen?
It really depends on the customer. They can be flying back and forth all day, all night, rain, snow as well. It's 4 kilometers, so it's only a few minutes, but if we're flying back and forth every hour in the hour, we could easily do that. So really, the frequency depends on the customer need.
You were talking about how you're going to, at the beginning of this pilot, use smaller drones. They can carry about 10 pounds. So pandemic supplies that are going in are going to be limited to a lighter weight, your swabs in and out. Could you deliver bigger supply loads of foodstuffs? You have drones that are capable to handle things like that if need be and this second wave occurs.
Absolutely. So the smallest one that I mentioned is the Sparrow. The next one up is called the Robin. It can go 60 kilometers, and it can take 25 pounds, or about 11.5 kilograms of cargo. And then our largest one is called the Condor, which is actually gasoline-powered. It looks like a small helicopter. It can go 200 kilometers, take 180 kilograms of payload, or it's about 400 pounds. So definitely we can move larger items or smaller items in bulk if that's the need.
And are these larger drones more efficient in bad weather, or are the smaller drones actually easier?
They're different. I mean, the gasoline power one, I would say, is a bit more robust to be able to handle tough weather. But we've flown, as I mentioned, in rain and snow and these sort of things. So they're pretty tough. We can handle it. The cargo is kept inside the drone. We can temperature control the cargo. So in the future, if there's any kind of vaccines that need temperature control, we can do that as well.
Well, the future is here, and it's been a pleasure talking to you about it. I thank you so much for shedding some light on the pilot project.
Thank you very much.
Cheers. That is Drone Delivery Canada CEO Michael Zahra.